Hello, you hottie hot hotties. Welcome to Wild&T with Teddy.
Tara.
Tony.
And Tawny. Welcome back, everyone. We are so excited to have you this week again, and welcome to any new listeners. We're excited to have you also. This week, we have a time-appropriate lineup. So to kind of start this episode off, the first thing that I do want to acknowledge is the events currently going on in Israel. We just wanted to briefly just say that our hearts do go out to everyone who is suffering under these recent attacks. If you're not sure what's going on, definitely take time to catch up, keep up on current events. It is very important to know. So again, just wanted to briefly put that thought out there and just let everybody know that it is something that we are also up to date on and we are keeping in our thoughts and in our hearts. So, along with current events and in today's current corporate world, something we kind of wanted to go ahead and touch base on. Super fun for everybody. We all love talking about work when we're not at work, right? It's like you should be paying for me. You should be paying me even though I'm not working. What did everybody learn on the job that school failed to teach you?
Negotiation.
Even just like the amount of how much you don't need to know before us actually starting the job. Like
the amount you don't need to know. What do you mean?
We're done. That's all.
No.
Like there's so much that you're just gonna get trained on or just thrown in no matter what, whether you know the systems, whether you have a degree in it or not. Like they're just gonna throw you in one way or the other. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, exactly. It doesn't actually matter what your background is in because you're just gonna learn how to do it anyways. So like I'm like 95% confident that I could go and learn how to, I don't know, be a rocket scientist on the job. Like that's like the amount of how unimportant. I mean, training is good, whatever, but I don't know.
No, it's so true.
They have templates for that, you know?
I have a friend who worked in IT, and they were like, honestly, most of the time I Google it. If I don't know what's going on, I Google it, and I figure it out from there.
Well, and every business does things differently, too. So you have to learn per business. I work in banking, and if I go to a different bank, I still have to learn what they do. And let's be honest, there are plenty of things that they're like, it's a big deal legally wise. And then there are some things that they're like, it's not a big deal. And it's different for each business, bank, everybody.
It's true.
Absolutely. Tawny, your comment made me think of Confessions of a Shopaholic, where it's like, did you just Google how to write from an angle?
Did you just type good angles on APRs into Google?
Exactly.
That's something that I actually did learn in school because I took a GIS class a couple of semesters, and part of their lesson plan, they were literally like, go and Google how to do this for GIS.
No, they did not.
They did. And I was like, what am I paying for? What am I paying for?
Yeah, that's shocking.
They're like, we're not going to teach you. We just want you to do it on your own. But pay for it.
We will teach you how to figure out how to do it on your own.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think my economics class in high school definitely should have taught negotiation skills for sure. And just business mindset as well. Because these are things that managers, owners will take advantage of for newbies into the workforce. 100%. You don't know if you're getting a fair rate. You have no idea.
No, definitely. I'm actually taking a class right now, and it's like career development. And one of the things that it does talk about is negotiations. And it says that there's like, I think 70% or somewhere around that number of employers expect you to negotiate. But most people don't, because they're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I'll take it. You're just too afraid to, if you really need that job, or, you're just too afraid to actually say anything. But a good majority expect it. They don't expect you to just take the first offer, but most people don't. I'm one of those people who doesn't, because I'm like, no, I'll take the job. I want it.
I'll be honest, I've tried negotiating and I've been shut down immediately. Like, I don't think I've ever gone into a situation where I've negotiated and they've been like, yeah, let's negotiate. No, they shut me down so hard and they're like, take it or leave it, babe. I'm like, all right, well, my MBA means nothing, but thanks for requiring that.
Golly.
Yeah, and also like something that I didn't accept, that I never felt like it was a disadvantage to me, really was like being a woman in the workforce. I never expected that to be a disadvantage, and I feel like since I have entered and had a few jobs in the corporate setting, it's made a difference on how I've been viewed and how I've been described as well by
Describe.
yeah, upper management, if I'm being like unruly or
Yes.
yeah.
Really?
What do they call it? Like keywords on how would you describe this employee? It's never pretty.
Yeah, there's the difference. Oh, aggressive versus
Always. Their favorite.
calculated.
Aggressive versus determined, motivated.
Aggressive. Yeah, motivated, ambitious. You're not ambitious, you're aggressive.
Yeah, I've been told like you shouldn't be money motivated. What am I here for then?
Everyone around me is money motivated. I don't
I'm
understand.
not going to work for free, thank you.
Yeah, and the thing was that I never oh my gosh, in one of my previous jobs, we would have our quarterly or semi-annual reviews, and we would fill out these questions, these worksheets, and one of the questions was, what motivates you? And I remember the first time I filled that out, I was like, I'm a very self-motivated person, and so I don't really need much motivation. I just want to do a good job. And then 6 months later, I was like, I'm a very self-motivated person, and I feel like that has bitten me in the butt the past 6 months because I worked hard and I did things, and I didn't get rewarded for those things, or there was no appreciation showed, and then more things were just piled on top of me instead of without compensation. And so now I'm feeling like my self-motivation is actually detrimental to my success. So that sucks. It sucks. And it's kind of just
detrimental to your success, but it's the business that benefits from it. So they want you to be self-motivated.
Exactly. And I know, it's better to be a self-motivated person when you're working for yourself. It just is. And if you're not working for yourself, if you're working for someone else, it's not, they want self-motivated people, but you don't have the same stake in the business that they do. So, and I've worked for like family companies, and they literally they're like, we're a family. And it's like, no, we're not, because if we were, then I would be reaping the rewards of this business that you
then I'd be getting paid as much as your wife is, who does have to work.
Yeah, it turns out saying we're like a family is a red flag.
Yeah,
now.
turn and run away.
That used to be used to get people to come in and be like, yeah, we're like it. No, that's a red flag. If they say that to you in an interview, red flag. Walk away. You're going to get screwed.
You do not want a family at the workplace unless you're literally working with your family, and we don't work with.
Yeah, it's called work-life balance for a reason.
I think another thing that I wish I better understood and that I struggle with, it's like a turnoff as soon as I say it. Like people will be like, what are your goals? I'd be like, I am motivated by career growth. And all of a sudden they're just like, whoa, calm down. who do you think you are? What do you think you're trying to do? And I'm like, well, how did you get to this position? Obviously, you're in an upper management position. How did you get here? And they're like, well, my path was, it's not how it works for everybody. You can't expect that. And I'm like, so you're not trying to help me grow. You want to keep me down and I have to fight, like fight for it. And if I say it in an interview that career growth is important to me, what can you offer? They immediately clam up and they're like, don't go for this girl. She expects too much. Expects too much. I mean, I hope there are businesses out there and people who've had experiences that they were promoted and cultivated to grow. I just have yet to experience it in my personal growth careers.
Well, and it's awful too when you have a company who kind of like says the opposite. They're like, oh, yeah, we definitely have all these opportunities and all these classes and learnings and blah, blah, blah. And then when it actually comes down to it, you're like, hey, I'm ready to do this thing. And they're like, yeah, no, we need you here. And you're like, but you said, and they're like, sorry, maybe another time. It's just not going to work right now. And so you're like, but so you end up getting stuck there anyway. And yeah, and then you're just wasting time. For me personally, I wish that in school we learned about more opportunities in like the job field. Like I feel like for me anyway, it was psychology, theater, ag, and like mechanics. And it was very, very much like these are things you can go into. Whereas for me, I learned just by accident that forensic accounting is what I want to do. And it wasn't even until I was at the end of my schooling for accounting that I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing, and that's awesome. And that's exactly what I want. Whereas, I was like, oh, accounting, right? And then there's like, okay, tax accounting, boring. Retirement accounting, boring. So I guess the books it is, or management accounting. And so it's just, I wish that school really kind of gave more options and helped you cultivate more of this is what's available. It's not just these like major fields you can go into.
Well, and that's essentially what like a counselor is for in college, to help guide you that way. I think it would be beneficial. I don't know if they do it now, but I think it would have been beneficial for me doing a degree in geology. It was brand new to me. I wasn't super aware of all the opportunities. It wasn't until my last year that I knew the direction I wanted to go, but by then it was too late because the classes weren't offered at the time. There are different years that they were offered, and it was too late to get like a TA position and all the things. And it just would be so much more beneficial for people to actually use their degrees, use their interests if they knew the options more clearly. Even if I knew banking when I got into it and they presented all the options for me and the paths and what I would need to do to get there, it would have been so much easier than just like, okay, I guess I'll try this next. Okay, this will pay more, so I'll go here. Okay, now this.
I experienced a lot in college was I joined the like wildlife society when I was in college, and every week they would have like a meeting and they would invite people from like who had different careers and stuff in this field. And that's how I got to see a lot of different like more niche career fields and more like exploration of like, okay, here's the field, but here are all of these career paths in that field, right? So like to Tani's point, we're given in high school, we're given like these broad fields. And then we kind of are like, oh, this sounds interesting. And then we try to go into it. And then like in college is where we're really supposed to learn all of the niche that goes into that. And so if you are in college and you're trying to find a certain career path, I highly suggest going to like different society meetings and clubs and stuff like that, because that's where you're going to get a lot more experience of what is available to you. For me personally, I am not in the corporate world and I do not envy anybody who is. So I dabbled in it very briefly, and And I was not a fan. I'm not a fan of 9 to 5. I'm not a fan of like any of that stuff. My big career that I am in right now is I work as a subcontractor for mail delivery. So there are like different mail routes, and you have contract mail routes. And a lot of the times it'll be just like one or two people like who have a bunch of mail contracts, and then they contract somebody else to deliver the mail. So that's what I do. And I love it. And it is my favorite thing. And I decided a few years ago, I was like, I can do the mail for the rest of my life because it actually hits all of my personal skill sets. Like it's routine, it's like very low human contact. It's like I'm very
Your skill set is low human contact.
it is. It's very like I have to self-supervise and I have to problem solve without anybody around to tell me what to do, and I
The
prefer
dream.
that. Like
The
that is
dream.
what I want. I don't want other people watching over my shoulder all the time. Obviously, it's mail, so you have to be responsible because mishandling mail is a federal crime. But you don't have somebody over your shoulder all the time telling you what to do or how to deal with customers. And another thing that I really love about it is you don't have, at least in my opinion, my experience, you don't have a lot of the bias that you do in the corporate world, like with you guys talking about like career growth or like being a woman and all of that stuff. Like you get the paid the same regardless. They do not care. If the contractor is offering a daily rate for pay, they don't care if you're male, female, old or young, that you're gonna get the same thing. And they're like, this is
So
how much we
now,
can pay you. So take it or leave it. And you're just
so
like,
now you know Tony's the only one that enjoys her job.
And this is a hard shout out to our mom and Victoria and their subcontracting company.
Was it Vici Transportation?
yep, Vici transport.
Shout out to Vici.
Hire them, help them become the mail moguls of the U.S.
They're wonderful bosses.
They are. And Vicky is actually how I got my job in the mail. And when I went on my mission, mom took my job, and that's how she and Vicky got together.
So, with that said, I mean, we kind of briefly touched on this topic a little bit, but aside from things that we wish we knew or learned in school versus learned on the job, what are some of the day-to-day struggles of being employed?
Going.
Lloyd.
Just showing up.
I mean, to start off on a positive note, I would say I work remote fully now. And it is nice to be at home and do my home life in like on breaks and in between. But also being in the office was nice because that's where so much of your socialness comes from. And you always have someone to talk to. There's always someone available to chat with. That is the biggest positives, I would say, for both sides of it. The hardest things day to day, I think it's like for me personally at this point in my life, I think it's just lack of feedback on how to be better. And I just feel like day in and day out, I'm doing the same thing and I have so little like feedback and results to show of it is the hardest thing for me right now at this time.
Staying content. It's hard to stay content.
What's
when you
funny,
just
speaking
wanna-
of working from home, I was talking to Dad today about what time we have to wake up in the morning. And I was like, yeah, I have to wake up at 4:45 because I work at 5. And he was like, you can get up in 15 minutes. I was like, mm-hmm. I roll out of bed, throw on some sweats, and I mosey my way over to my desk. Bleary-eyed, and I start work.
Yeah. You're like, luckily it's early enough that like no one else is up. So you just kind of can decompress while you're getting things rolling.
I was like, Dad, I work right down the hall. He's like, but you can get out of bed in 15 minutes. I do it before I know what's going on. So that's my hardest. That's my day-to-day struggle is the waking up early. Yeah, and then not just crashing afterward and taking a nap for the rest of the day.
My whole life to tell the world about the most difficult thing about the postal system.
Now is your moment.
Confessions of a postal worker.
It's your
Here's your
time.
platform, finally.
Here's your weekly segment of Confessions of a Postal Worker.
Love it.
It comes with a lot of interesting stories. But the main problem is you, the customer. And here's why.
The problem, Milan, is you. So
Because, it's a very
You are not always right.
exactly, you are not always right, and more often than not, you are very wrong. The number of times I've had to explain to a person where a key for their locker goes, like they get a key in their mailbox to go get their package from a locker, and they sit there and they're like, they call you and they're like, I got this key and I don't know where it goes. And you're just like, okay. The
Open
number
your
of
eyes.
times.
Stick your head
The
out the
number of
window.
times.
They're like, look, can you Google it? Google first
Literally,
and then call.
literally. But especially now because it's coming up to holiday season and people don't understand, especially for male contractors, if you live out in a rural area or you live in an area that is not rural now, but at one point was and is still under a contract instead of the USPS, contractors drive their own vehicle. They have a set amount of hours. They do not get paid overtime. They can have second trips that they get paid for, but that's only under certain circumstances. And managers these days are very rude and very picky about whether or not they'll give you second trips. So you have these highway contractors who cannot deliver all of your packages in the set amount of time that they get paid for. But if they come back with packages or they write these packages up for you to pick up from the post office, the manager, the postmaster gets a million calls from people complaining that they didn't get their Christmas gift in time. And it's like there's no thought to the person who has to deliver all of this crap. We do not get extra money for extra hours during Christmas, during like any sort of holiday. So everybody needs to keep that in mind, that postal workers are exhausted and overworked, and the supervisors and the postmasters will not give leeway in a lot of places. And it really sucks. So a little patience goes a long way.
So you should tip your postal worker ahead of time of the holidays, and maybe they'll get it to you.
That little box of chocolate is the Amazon gift card. The Amazon gift card so the postal worker doesn't have to deliver.
Yeah. Only if you live in a place where Amazon delivers there and not the post office.
Oh yeah, check for that.
I mean, to a tangent of that, I have been frustrated lately that there is so much less available in stores lately, and you're kind of forced to go online. Like, I'll be honest, I don't want to wait 5 to 7 days for something to show up. I would much rather just be able to go to the store and get the item that I can find on that business's website to be shipped online. Like, especially for clothing specifically, clothing stores, when they're like, oh, online only, it's like, why? Please, let's get back to brick and mortar. I know COVID was a big thing. Online shopping's a big thing. But guess how much better it is to just be able to grab it that day, Target, like rather than have to wait 5 to 7 days. That would be great. And it's probably like more sustainable because they're just grouping it all in one big trip rather than like individually to every single house.
I've been trying to buy these protein shakes in bulk for weeks, but they're not carried in store in bulk, and I've not bought them. I've not, because I just have been putting it off. Don't know why. I would have had it already if I did it, but principle.
In-store shopping is like in-person dating. You immediately know if it's not a fit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is the benefit there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The tangibility of it turns out is so much better.
Well, and here's what I think they do
Immediate
personally.
gratification.
I'm an instant gratification kind of person. So if I buy something, I want it now. So if I bought something and I have to wait for it, you can bet I'm going to go out and buy something else that I can get right now. And that's a problem.
Yeah. You're like, in the meantime, I'll go buy something tangible immediately while I wait for this other item for that gratification feeling.
I said that to my youth girls the other day, and the looks that they gave me were an admiration of like shock and awe.
They're like, we want to be like you when we're older.
You can go to a store and get it yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, the online shopping experience is like I'll buy something and then I'll forget about it. And then a few days later, it's like I surprised myself with a special gift. And it's so great. I'm like,
That must
oh
be
my
nice.
gosh.
But like
in the mail
for
for me.
toothpaste, you're like the toothpaste you want. That's not that exciting. You know, it's a letdown. For like a pair of shoes, great. But like for everyday items or just quick items that you needed, you're like, oh, I needed these hooks or something. And they're only available on Amazon.
Even that stuff, I'm like, if I have a major project or whatever that I want to do and then I get the hooks, I'm like, yes, I can do the project.
You're like, we can finish 5 to 7 days later after I initiated this project.
Which
And
is
you're
not as
off
much
your
time
phone.
as it would take me to get back into the project anyways. So.
You started it, you took your break, and now you're back.
Well, I get the package and then I'm like, well, I'm not going to do this right now. So then I leave it for another week and then, you know, until I get my mind back to where it needs to be.
Speaking of packages and holidays, we have Halloween coming up, and we would like to know, or I would like to know, what was everybody's favorite costumes or costume stories?
First of all, shout out to Mom. She was the best DIY costumer. Anything we could imagine, she transformed.
It's true.
Yeah, and now we're gonna get to see pictures if you're following us on social media. So look out for that.
I 1 year decided I was going to be a domino. It was the most frustrating costume I've ever worn. But can I tell you how many costume contests I won? All of them.
That's so great.
Yeah, they stopped doing costume contests for a while there because we kept winning all of them because our mom
They stopped
was
doing
so good.
Halloween contests for a while because we were dominating.
The pumpkin carving,
Pumpkin
the
carving,
chili.
chili cook-off, costume. At
There wasn't a lot to
and
do in the
school,
town,
everywhere.
so
We
they said you
dominated
guys can
Halloween.
run it and judge.
We dominated Halloween when we were kids, for sure. Maybe that's why I just like am not bothered by it anymore. I'm like, nah, I already had my glory days. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
No, we really came up with some really good pumpkin carving. That was fun. I love the pumpkin, like the throwing up, the spa day, the like chicken pox
Thank
one. It was fun.
Yeah, as soon as we knew we could win, we were unstoppable.
Oh my gosh, Teddy, do you remember your costume when you were in the bathtub?
that was one of my favorite ones. Yeah, I was
love
I
that
was
one.
taking a bubble bath. That was my costume, and I won. That was the same time that Tony was like a rain cloud or something with the spritzer bottle. Yeah, Mom blew up all of these white water balloons, which I helped her with, and it hurt your cheeks to blow them up because they're so small.
Little ones.
But yeah, we blew them up and then stuck them. She carved some leg holes in this big old bucket and put like elastic over it so I could carry it like
You
suspenders.
were wearing
and-
a bucket? I did not
It was
remember
a
that.
bucket.
That's hilarious.
yeah, it was a bucket, and then
Blue
we
ones.
taped the balloons inside, and I had a little shower cap, and I was taking a bubble bath, and it was adorable, actually.
So cute.
I remember, Tawny, the one where I told Mom that I wanted to be a snow fairy, and then you copied me, and we both had the same costume.
Is that why we had the same wings? I had no idea why we both had the same pair of wings.
we both had the same wings because we were both snow fairies.
But Mom made those wings, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
Made
it
those.
was
Remember she
very
made butterfly
pretty.
wings for me? Impressive.
I would get my inspiration from, I think it was Tony, was it the American Girl? Because they had the American Girl dolls, and then they came out with
Yes,
like
the
a
magazine.
tween American Girl magazine,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I like worshipped that.
Yeah,
That's
I
where
forgot about that.
that's where I got so much of my inspo for these costumes, and they always came out so good. When I was like, "Mom, this is what I want," and she's like, "Magic, done."
My favorite part about Halloween is definitely the candy. I think after like the age of 11, 12 years old, I was over costumes. But when I got a little bit older and I got into those upper teenage years when like it's less acceptable to go trick or treating, I realized that if I throw a sheet over myself and I'm a ghost, then nobody can tell how old I am.
Okay, but let's
True.
talk
Like
about that
that.
costume that we did, Tony.
Oh yeah, I had like what was it? I had like come
We
home
were
from
making
college or
dresses.
something.
I was making a dress for a project for church. And so
Oh,
we
yes,
bought
yes,
the
yes.
material and it was just white because we're also going to dye it, right? So we bought the material and it was Halloween and it was just you and I at the house. I think mom had taken
It was
whoever else
Dallas
out. Yeah,
and
Dallas
with
out
a
trick or
group
treating
of
with like his
friends. They all
friends.
went as a
Mm-hmm.
group.
And so,
And then,
yep. And so you and I were sitting there and we're like, we want candy. And so we're like, So we see these white pieces of material, these huge pieces of material, because we're making maxi dresses, these white pieces of material. And so we were like, genius idea. We're going to cut eye holes in this and just walk around with these things over our heads.
and we like dressed up. Did we dress up? It was like white pants, white
We
shirt,
did
white
white shirts,
gloves.
white pants.
Like we put
white
it
gloves.
all on. And then we put these big pieces of fabric and we dressed up as ghosts and we like drove to where mom and dad and all of like the boys were. And we like parked a little way down the road and we're like trick or treating. And we come up to this one house. The street is like empty by this point, by the way. We
my
come
God.
up to this one house and you could see like there was like a glass door there, and the lady is chilling in her living room
Watching TV.
watching TV. And we ring the doorbell and the lady like turns around and she sees us and she's
She's an
like,
older lady, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
she jumps out of her skin at the sight of us.
That's amazing. I mean, it's Halloween, ma'am. What are you
She
thinking?
loved it though. She loved it. She was so excited to see it. She was like, "You guys scared the crap out of me."
She truly appreciates Halloween.
The spirits of Halloween.
Must have been watching Garfield's Halloween because that one scared the crap out of me.
I know. Well, we like walked past mom and dad. We finally got up to mom and dad and the boys later. And like we like walked past them. And we like didn't say anything till we got like to they just like watched us as we walked by, like quietly. They're like
Oh
and,
man.
and then we're like, "Hi mom." And she's like, Tony.
No, didn't we like walk up behind we would walk up behind little kids going, ooh, terrifying these little kids.
Oh my gosh, you're literally haunting their nightmares.
It's amazing.
It was a fun Halloween.
That's so cute.
No, what I always loved about Halloween was afterward when we would come home with our, steals, right? Or our treasure trove of candy. We would sit around taking our hair out of whatever elaborate way it was done. So it's all like poofy and ratty, and we'd sit down and we would dump our bags of candy out and then we'd do our candy exchange.
The
Candy
most
exchange.
important part of the night.
Mhm. Yep, and Robbie would always walk over and take my Butterfingers.
It was serious.
It's the older
serious
sibling
business.
tax.
Always trying to convince the younger sibling that a candy you didn't like was the best candy so you could get better candies from them. I mean, my favorite candies was Tootsie Rolls, always the big fatty ones and then the long skinny one. Those were my favorite, so I would do anything to get those.
Which I was happy with because I was always going for Kit Kats or Twixes. I went through phases of both.
But nobody ever wanted to give away the Reese's ever.
Mm-mm.
No.
But I
then
would
they
give
came
away
out
like
with
almond
eight.
joys and stuff super fast.
Yeah, you would bargain hard for those Reese's. You'd be like, I'll give you 2 Kit Kats, 3 bags of M&Ms, and the Sour Patch Kid for one of your Reese's.
Yeah, because if you didn't get a Reese's in your bag, that was like a fail. Like,
And somebody
why?
inevitably got the entire haul of them every single time.
And it's sad that we didn't get to experience Reese's Shapes until we were adults because Reese's Shapes are the best. I think it was like
Oh, yeah.
probably Dallas's age when they started coming out with those.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
us as
true.
like adults were like, can we try that? You don't like these, right?
Dallas didn't have a
Pumpkins,
single
trees.
piece of gross candy in his bag somehow at the end of Halloween.
Like the dots, Mike and Ike's or something. Never about that.
No, what were those little, like the crunchy, what were those called?
The
The
Whopper.
super generic candies.
They were like
Or-
the
oh.
banana and like the shape, you know,
yeah,
the
the
gross
fruit
one.
ones.
Yeah, kind of like sweet tarts,
Oh my
but like
gosh.
something.
But they were just
right?
powder.
Yeah.
You just chew
So
them into
gross.
powder.
Or
Oh, the
like the
Smarties?
strawberry wrapped candies. That
Ooh, always. Those were
The
nasty.
old people candy.
yeah, now I know. Every time that I go out and I buy candy for trick or treaters on Halloween, I stop at like the bad bags of candy and I ponder for a second, like, should I? Should I give them that experience?
Yeah, you're like, should I be that house, that apartment? But the hard thing is,
they won't
if,
see your house,
if not
buddy.
enough people come, then you're stuck with that candy. And if you get crap candy, you're throwing away money.
Joke's on you.
Joke's on
Also
you.
true, also true. Which is why I never have, because I'm like, I'll just get the chocolates so I can eat them, and then if a trick or treater comes, maybe I'll share.
See, here's my thought process. I'm the only house, okay, I'm the only house that somebody lives in on the block. All right. So nobody comes here to trick or treat, which is why I buy one of those boxes of the full size candy bars, sometimes the king size. And this way, nope, if people come, guess what? You got a big old candy bar in your bag. But if
You
nobody
are
comes,
rewarded.
that's mine.
Yeah, they're rewarded if they come. That's the point.
I'll probably give
I
you a
was looking
couple
at-
of them. Take your pick.
Yeah, I was looking at candy today because I was like, I don't know if kids are gonna come. I don't even know if there's kids in my neighborhood. And it's just like one little neighborhood in the middle of like businesses, and then there's like neighborhoods farther down. So I have no idea what's gonna happen this year, but I think I'm gonna spring for some good candy.
Be the house everybody loves, Tara.
Be the
You know, it's
full
always
size candy
cute.
bar house.
Or the cute little gift bag house. Oh, those are always fun.
No, I'm
gift
not
bags
bad.
are
Oh.
always great.
No way.
There's also always that one street that everybody aims for that like has all the good candy down that street.
They all have the full size or the king size. Yeah.
Or just like all the Reese's and the Kit Kats and the Snickers.
The
That's
Milky
what they are.
Way. Yeah.
My most memorable Halloween will probably have to be saved for another day because it's an intense story. Started off with a flash mob, ended off with me on fire.
Oh my gosh. No, you need to
Oh my
share that.
goodness. No, Teddy, we have time. We have time.
Yeah, so I had 2 Halloween parties that night, one for Leo Club, which was when I was in high school. They did stuff for the community. Anyways, and I was a go-go girl for Halloween because Tara had a go-go girl costume, which I used, years later. And so there was some very tall boots. And as a part of our program for the Leo Club Halloween party, we organized a flash mob of the Thriller. So I was dancing the Thriller in those go-go girl boots. And then afterwards, we went to our church Halloween party at one of the members' houses. And they had a mad scientist, one of the couples from the congregation had a mad scientist lab set up. And they were a lot of fun, and it was a really cool display. Anyway, I had at the end of the night when everyone was cleaning up, I had switched out of my go-go girl boots into these knockoff Uggs. They're like bear claw boots or something. And so they had
I
the
didn't
fur
leave my Ugg boots for you, luckily. I only left the go-go boots. I didn't leave my Ugg boots for you. Thank goodness.
and they had fur inside of them, and it went up to my shin. And so me and the man who was running the mad scientist lab, we decided to put some fire inside of just a hollowed out pumpkin, not a jack-o'-lantern, It wasn't carved, just hollowed out. Very important to know that. And so we put fire inside of it because he was a lot of fun. He was really fun. He is a really fun guy. And we put the fire inside of it, and it was just floating around. And we're like, oh, well, that was anticlimactic. And he was like, let's do more. And it's like, yes. So so he pours in whatever he pours in, and I, just being dumb, I was 17 at the time, was too close to the pumpkin when he poured in the stuff, and then the fire went whoosh up vertically, and it was really close to me, and so I squealed and I started running away because it had startled me. And then I just hear everyone shouting, stop, stop. And I looked down and the fire had caught on to the fur inside of my boot.
God.
And it was on fire. And so I kicked off one of the boots. And then before I could kick off the other one, and this was all outside, before I could kick off the other one, they tackled me to the ground and patted out the other boot in the dirt. And I sat there in this go-go dress and with one boot on and one boot off. And people started gathering around me, and I just started laughing because it was so funny. It was really funny. Also, the fire had burned off my nerves, so I couldn't feel anything.
So, like, she actually had some very serious burns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were pretty
Yeah.
intense.
it was. Yeah, I felt the worst because the couple who had the mad scientist lab, they felt really bad, and I didn't want them to feel bad because it wasn't their fault. It was me being dumb. And anyway, no harm, no foul. And Mom put honey on my wounds, and it healed right up, and I have no scars. So that
Didn't
was
they
my
buy
most-
you new boots too?
They replaced the boots, yes, which
They were
was
just
really
sweet.
sweet. It was very sweet. But yeah, that's my most memorable Halloween.
I think Teddy might win it.
Teddy, the
Well-
girl on fire.
You know her as the girl on fire.
The girl on fire.
Girl on
I
fire.
forgot her stop, drop, and roll.
I didn't know I was. In order to stop, drop, and roll, you have to know you were on fire. Okay.
Teddy was just ready to go.
And he was
It's
still
very in
go-go mode,
character.
Kicking off the shoes.
Well, everyone, that's going to be it for us for tonight. So just remember, as a PSA for these holidays coming up, the customer is not always right. This has been Wild&T. Thank you. Have a good night. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wild&T. This podcast episode was produced and edited by Teddy Chanpoon, Kyron Maciel, and Dallas Hanson. Remember to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with your sisters. For more content, you can follow Wild&T on all platforms or our individual socials. See you next week.